Hi there, my name's Daniel, and I'm from the UK. 6 months ago, I packed my backpack, grabbed my laptop, and flew to Southeast Asia with no return ticket. Why? Because I wanted to explore the world, meet new people, and learn how to live with less but feel more alive. Since then, I've traveled through Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Indonesia. I've had amazing days, crazy moments, and even some scary nights, but every day has been an adventure. In the next 10 short talks, I'll share stories from my journey. From getting lost in Bangkok to eating bugs on the street, to learning local languages and working from coffee shops in the jungle. Whether you're dreaming of travel or just want to practice your English, come along with me. Let's explore, learn, and laugh together. Why I chose to travel for 6 months. A few years ago, I was living in London, working a 9-to-5 office job. Every day felt the same. Wake up, take the train, sit at a desk, go home, sleep, and repeat. I had money, a small flat, and everything I needed, but something was missing. I didn't feel excited about life. One evening, I was scrolling through YouTube and saw a video about a guy traveling around Southeast Asia. He was riding a motorbike through the rice fields in Vietnam and eating noodles at a tiny street stall. He looked so free, so happy, and I thought, why can't I do that? So I started planning. I saved money for 1 year. I sold things I didn't need, like old clothes, my TV, and even my couch. The more I let go, the lighter I felt. Finally, I booked a one-way ticket to Hanoi, Vietnam. I had no plan, no job waiting, and no idea what would happen. Just me, my backpack, my laptop, and a small camera. People thought I was crazy. Some friends said, "What if you run out of money?" Others asked, "Aren't you scared to travel alone?" And yes, I was scared, but also excited. I wanted to see the world with my own eyes, not just in pictures or videos. I wanted to eat real street food, hear new languages, and feel the sunshine in places I'd never been. I also wanted time to think, to learn, and to grow. Travel for me wasn't just about holidays. It was about discovering who I am. Now, 6 months later, I've been through jungles, cities, and tiny villages. I've met people from all over the world and learned more about life than I ever did in school. And honestly, it was the best decision I've ever made. My first day in Vietnam. My first day in Vietnam was something I'll never forget. I arrived in Hanoi after a long flight from London. It was hot, humid, and everything felt different. The sounds, the smells, the air. As soon as I stepped outside the airport, I saw 100 motorbikes going in all directions. I stood there with my backpack, a little confused and very tired. I smiled at a taxi driver and said, "Old quarter?" He smiled back and nodded. Off we went. The streets of Hanoi were full of life. People were selling fruits, fixing scooters, and drinking coffee on tiny plastic chairs. There were horns, shouting, and the smell of grilled meat in the air. It was loud, chaotic, and exciting. When I got to my guest house, the staff were so kind. They gave me a glass of cold tea and showed me to my room. It was simple but clean, with a fan, a small bed, and a window that looked out to a busy street. After a short rest, I went out to explore. I was hungry, so I stopped at a street food stall where a woman was making something that smelled amazing. I pointed and smiled. She laughed and handed me a bowl of pho, Vietnamese noodle soup. The broth was hot and full of flavor. There were noodles, beef, fresh herbs, and lime. It was the best soup I had ever tasted. I didn't know how to use chopsticks well, so I made a bit of a mess, but the people around me just smiled. That night, I walked around Hoang Kiem Lake. There were couples, families, and tourists all enjoying the cool evening air. The lights reflected on the water, and I felt calm for the first time in a while. I remember thinking, I'm really here. This is real. It was scary and beautiful all at once. That first day in Vietnam made me fall in love with travel. Getting lost in Bangkok. After spending 2 weeks in Vietnam, I flew to Thailand. My first stop was Bangkok, the capital city. I had seen pictures online, bright lights, golden temples, and street food everywhere. I was excited, and also a bit overconfident. On my first night, I went out to explore. I had a map on my phone and thought, I'll be fine. I walked through a busy night market, then down a small street filled with food stalls and shops. Everything looked interesting, so I kept walking and walking and walking. Suddenly, I realized I didn't know where I was. I opened Google Maps, but it wasn't loading. I checked the street signs, but I couldn't read Thai. It was getting dark and I was getting nervous. I tried to ask someone for help. An old man was sitting on a chair outside his shop. I said, "Excuse me, where's the BTS station?" He didn't speak English, but he smiled and waved for me to sit. Then, he called his grandson, a teenage boy who came outside with his phone. The boy used a translation app and asked me, "Where do you want to go?" I showed him the name of my hostel. He looked at the map, then said, "Wait here." A few minutes later, he returned with his motorbike. He gave me a helmet and said, "I take you." I was surprised, but also very thankful. We rode through the busy streets for about 10 minutes, and then, there it was, my hostel. I offered to pay, but he refused. He just smiled, gave me a thumbs up, and said, "Enjoy Thailand." That night, I learned something important. Getting lost can be scary, but it also gives people a chance to help you. And sometimes, strangers can become heroes, just for a moment. The kind stranger in Cambodia. After Thailand, I traveled to Cambodia. I had always wanted to see Angkor Wat, the famous ancient temple. So I arrived in Siem Reap, a small city full of history, friendly people, and delicious food. On my second day there, I rented a bicycle to ride around the temples. The weather was hot, really hot, and I didn't drink enough water. After about an hour of cycling, I started to feel dizzy. I stopped under a tree to rest, but I could feel my heart beating fast. I realized I was dehydrated. I looked around, but I was far from the main road, and there weren't many people around. I didn't know what to do. A few minutes later, a man on a motorbike stopped nearby. He looked at me and asked, "Are you okay?" I shook my head and said, "No water." Without a word, he took a bottle from his bag and handed it to me. Then he pointed to his bike and said, "Come." I hesitated, but I knew I needed help. He tied my bike to the back of his motorbike with a rope, he was very clever, and drove me to a small shop where I could sit and rest. He even bought me another bottle of cold water. We didn't speak the same language, but he stayed with me for almost 30 minutes to make sure I was okay. Before he left, he smiled and said something in Khmer. I didn't understand, but I knew it was kind. That day, I didn't see Angkor Wat, but I saw something better, kindness. A stranger who didn't know me stopped to help, gave his time, and asked for nothing in return. That's something I'll remember forever. Street food adventures. One of the best things about traveling in Southeast Asia is the street food. It's cheap, tasty, and full of surprises. Every country has its own special dishes, and I love trying them all. In Vietnam, I had banh mi, a crispy baguette with meat, vegetables, and spicy sauce. It cost less than $1, but it tasted like something from a fancy restaurant. I ate it on the street while scooters zoomed past me. That was my first wow moment with street food. In Thailand, I tried pad thai from a small cart near my hostel. The man cooking it used fire and moved so fast, it was like watching a show. The noodles were sweet, sour, and salty with crunchy peanuts on top. I also tried mango sticky rice, which became one of my favorite desserts. Then in Cambodia, things got a little more interesting. At a night market, I saw people eating fried insects. There were crickets, worms, and even tarantulas. A local guy smiled and said, "Want to try?" I said yes, because when else would I eat a spider? Honestly, it was crunchy and a little salty, not bad. But I probably won't eat another one anytime soon. In Laos, I had something called lap, a spicy meat salad with herbs and lime. I ate it with sticky rice while sitting by the Mekong River. It was fresh, light, and full of flavor. And in Indonesia, I discovered nasi goreng, their famous fried rice. It came with an egg on top and crispy crackers on the side. Simple, but delicious. Sometimes I don't know exactly what I'm eating, but that's part of the fun. I always look for busy stalls with locals eating. That's usually a good sign. Trying street food has helped me connect with local people. We laugh, we point at things, and we share small moments, even if we don't speak the same language. Food brings people together, and for me, every street food adventure is a memory I'll never forget. Working online while traveling. Before I started this trip, I worked in an office from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., 5 days a week. I sat at a desk, answered emails, joined meetings, and stared at a computer screen. Now I still work on a computer, but from different places all over Southeast Asia. I'm a freelance writer. That means I write articles for websites, travel blogs, and online magazines. As long as I have my laptop and Wi-Fi, I can work from anywhere. Sometimes I write in cafes with soft music and the smell of fresh coffee. Other times I sit in a quiet guest house room or even outside by the beach. It's not always perfect. Some days the internet is slow or there's no power, but most of the time it works. I usually wake up early and finish my writing by noon. That way I can use the afternoon to explore, meet people, or just relax. It's a nice balance between work and travel. One of my favorite places to work was in Bali. There was a co-working space near the rice fields. It had fast internet, big windows, and free tea. Other travelers were working there too. Graphic designers, video editors, teachers. We shared tips and talked about our journeys. Working online gives me freedom. I don't have to wait for the weekend to go somewhere new. If I want to visit a new city, I just pack my bag, take a bus, and bring my work with me. But it also means I have to be responsible. No boss is checking my time. If I don't work, I don't get paid. So I've learned to manage my time, stay focused, and plan ahead. This lifestyle isn't for everyone, but for me, it's perfect. It lets me see the world while still doing what I love. And the best part? Every day feels different. And that's something I never had in my old job. Learning local phrases. When I started traveling in Southeast Asia, I only spoke English. At first, I thought that would be enough. Many people speak some English, especially in cities and tourist areas. But soon I realized that learning just a few local words could make a big difference. In Vietnam, I learned to say "Cam in" for thank you and "Xin chào" for hello. When I used them, people smiled and seemed happy that I tried. Even if I said it wrong, they still appreciated the effort. In Thailand, I practiced saying "Swasti" to greet people and "Khop khun" to say thank you. One time, a street vendor gave me extra mango sticky rice just because I tried to speak Thai. We laughed together, and I felt more connected. In Cambodia, I learned "Arkun" for thank you. It's a small word, but it helped me start conversations. Sometimes people corrected my pronunciation, and I didn't mind. That's how I learned. In Laos, I asked a local woman how to say delicious in Lao. She said "Sep Lai." So when I finished my meal, I smiled and said, "Sep Lai." She laughed, clapped her hands, and said, "You speak Lao now." It was a fun moment. Learning local phrases isn't hard. I usually learn 5 to 10 basic words in each country. Things like hello, thank you, goodbye, delicious, and how much. I write them down or use a language app to practice. I don't need to be fluent, but saying a few words shows respect. It opens doors and hearts. And honestly, it makes travel more fun. I feel less like a tourist and more like a guest. People smile more, talk more, and sometimes even invite me for tea or food just because I tried. So if you travel, try to learn a little of the local language. Even one word can turn a normal moment into something special. A scary night in the jungle. One of the most unforgettable nights on my trip happened in Laos. I joined a small group for a jungle trek, 2 days of hiking, and 1 night of camping in the forest. It sounded fun and a bit challenging. I was excited. We walked for hours through the trees, crossed small rivers, and listened to the sounds of birds and insects. Our guide showed us wild fruits, animal tracks, and even some edible plants. In the evening, we reached a camp area with wooden huts and a fire pit. Dinner was simple: rice, vegetables, and grilled meat. We ate under the stars, surrounded by tall trees. There was no phone signal, no lights, and no noise from the city, just nature. After dinner, I went to my hut to sleep. It was quiet and I was tired. But around midnight, I woke up to a strange sound. It was like a deep growl, followed by rustling leaves. My heart started beating fast. I stayed still and listened. Was it a wild animal? A bear? A snake? I didn't know what animals lived in this jungle. I reached for my flashlight and slowly opened the door. Outside, it was completely dark. I couldn't see anything, but I heard the noise again. Closer this time. I wanted to call the guide, but I didn't want to shout. Then I saw something moving near the trees. I froze. And suddenly, it was just a monkey. A big one, yes, but not dangerous. It ran off quickly, probably more scared than I was. In the morning, I told the group about my scary night. They laughed and said, "Welcome to the jungle." That night taught me something. Fear feels big in the dark, especially when you're alone. But most of the time, it's not as bad as we think. And now, it's one of my favorite stories to tell. My favorite moment on the trip. I've seen many beautiful places during this trip. Waterfalls in Laos, temples in Cambodia, beaches in Thailand. But my favorite moment didn't happen at a famous spot. It happened one quiet evening in a small village in northern Vietnam. I was staying at a homestay with a local family. They didn't speak much English, and I didn't speak much Vietnamese, but somehow we understood each other. We used simple words, gestures, and lots of smiles. That evening, the grandmother started cooking dinner. She invited me to help. I chopped vegetables, washed herbs, and tried to follow her instructions. We laughed a lot, especially when I cut the carrots too thick. Soon, the whole family sat on the floor around a small table. There was rice, pork, tofu, and soup. The food was simple but delicious. They poured me a cup of warm tea, and the grandfather gave a small toast in Vietnamese. I didn't understand the words, but I felt the meaning. After dinner, we sat outside under the stars. The air was cool and the sky was full of light. The children showed me a local song and asked me to sing one from my country. I sang a silly song from my childhood, and they loved it. That night, I didn't have Wi-Fi, a soft bed, or hot water, but I felt full, not just from food, but from kindness and connection. That moment reminded me of what really matters. Not money or big cities, but people, time, and simple joy. It was just one evening in one small village, but to me, it was perfect. What travel taught me about life. Before this trip, I thought travel was just about seeing places. I wanted to take cool photos, eat new food, and visit famous spots. But after 6 months on the road, I learned it's about much more than that. Travel taught me to slow down. In the beginning, I tried to do everything. See 5 cities in 1 week, visit all the temples, try every dish. But I was always tired. Then I learned to stop rushing, to enjoy a morning coffee without checking my phone, to sit on a bench and just watch people go by. And that made every day feel richer. Travel also taught me that people are kind. In every country, I met strangers who helped me without asking for anything. A woman who walked with me to find my guest house. A shop owner who gave me water on a hot day. A kid who shared his snacks on a bus. I learned to trust more and to smile first. Another lesson, I don't need much to be happy. I've lived out of one backpack for months. No big closet, no fancy things, and still, I feel light and free. It's not about having more, it's about needing less. But maybe the biggest thing I learned is this. The world is big, but we are not so different. We all want connection, peace, laughter, and love. We just speak different languages and eat different food. This trip changed me, not just how I see the world, but how I see myself. I'm more open, more grateful, and more curious than ever. And even though my journey is ending for now, I know it's only the beginning. Thanks so much for listening to my stories. It means a lot that you spent this time with me. I hope you really enjoyed the journey as much as I did, through the cities, villages, and quiet moments in between. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. There are more listening stories coming on this channel, from other voices, other lives, and other lessons. And hey, if you'd like to read along or review the language, I'm happy to share the full transcript with you. Just leave a comment below and say something like, "Transcript, please." I'd love to help. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep exploring. Bye for now.